Good morning, everyone. It's Monday morning here at First Church, and this is another edition of Music on Monday. I'm Craig Simmons, Minister of Music here at First Church, and we're going to take you through a little more in-depth work on this organ. After last week's episode, I had a number of folks ask really detailed questions about how things worked and what the organ does and all the sounds that we make. So I'll try to answer some of those things today. As I said before, this is a very unedited, crude video. I'm not going to go into the studio and make edits and splice and things, so it's just going to be a continuous flow of things. So one of the things that was asked was, how does an organist determine the sounds that you make and the sounds that you choose to make up some interesting things? Why one stop over another? Why one sound over another? So I'll take you through that a little bit and let you hear some of the sounds. Based on last week's video, I think the microphone that I have picks up the sounds pretty well, and I was actually kind of amazed for a $20 microphone on Amazon. So here it is. You can go on Google and do a search for basic organ production or basic organ foundations. There are probably four basic sounds on the organ. One is the principal, and you'll see those sounds labeled in a variety of ways: diapason, principal, in a variety of different colors to those diapasons. So here's the typical organ sound that is based on that diapason sound. The other sound in the organ family is the flutes, and again, they have a variety of different names, and depending on the organ that you're playing, they'll have many different kinds of names, whether it's an English style, what they call nomenclature, type of sounds, descriptions, or German or French. So here's a Bourdon, which is a flute family. The next are the string family, and it sounds a little like this. And the last major family we have are the reeds, and they are produced. I'll show you a little bit about how reeds are constructed and what makes them a reed. It's based on the oboe or any of the double reed families: oboe, bassoon. Here's the crumb horn on our positive. Here's the English horn in the choir that I talked about last week. Here's the trumpet on the swell in the back corner of the box. Here's a Vox Humana, which is one of the digital stops, and a very soft, lovely sound. Here's an oboe. And in the pedal, we have the louder sounds down there in the reeds. So that is the basic sounds of the organ. In the background, you hear the tower chimes chiming 11 o'clock. So I'm going to step off the bench here a little bit. And behind me is a set of spare pipes that Austin Organ Company, that built our organ, was gracious to give me. They had some spare pipes left over from other jobs that they weren't being used, and so I said, give me a set of one of each of the types of stops, and this is what we have. So back here we've got 2 wooden pipes and 3 metal pipes. And as I explained to one viewer, the types of metal pipes we have come up with different sounds and different sound qualities based on the types of metal they're built from. So I'll bring these 2 shortest and tallest pipes close to you, and you can see a little bit. You can see some of the engraving, the metal spotting that they have in there. So that's the one of the mixture pipes. And here is a larger one. You get a little bit better concept of some of these spots in the different kinds of alloys that the metal is comprised of. And when it's rolled out in a huge sheet, like you've seen sheet metal maybe being delivered on a flatbed truck on a freeway or something, pipes are the same sort of way. They are rolled out. The metals are comprised for whatever sounds they want to make, and it's put into a sheet metal roll, and then they're rolled out and cut to different sizes, different lengths, different diameters. So this is, the smallest one here is part of a mixture rank. And let me see if I can turn around and show you this a little bit. So up there on the pipes that are mounted above the choir loft, all the little tiny ones that you see towards the front and the front end of things are mixtures, and they are a combination of 2 or 3 different sets of pipes sounding together, and I'll play you what that sounds like. This happens to be furniture 4 ranks, and I'll explain a little bit in a few minutes about what a rank is. But this is the basic construction of a pipe. It's cylindrical, it's round, it's tapered at the bottom, where it sits in a pipe chest where the air is all trapped and contained until the key is pressed on the console and either directly opens a valve or indirectly opens it through electricity. We happen to have electric action here, so when I depress a key, electric impulse goes to that specific pipe in the rank and in the chest, and it opens the valve to let the air in, and the pipe sounds. So this, and most pipes are stamped with what they are. So the organ builders, as you can imagine, with thousands of pipes in an organ, you can imagine they might get a little lost sometimes if they're being shipped from factory to destination. Most of them have what they are and what pipe, what note they are on the keyboard. This one says furniture 4 ranks and G sharp 3, which means it's the 3rd G sharp below the bottom note on the keyboard. And it sounds like this. And every pipe is constructed and built and added to whatever else the organ is doing. And how you tune things varies from the type of pipe, and I'll show you that when we get back to some of the other ones behind me. But there's a little sleeve at the top here. You can see there's a different color of the pipe. And in physics, something's shorter, at least in sound, it gets higher. And the longer it is, the lower it is. So that's how pipes are tuned. They take their little tools and they go up and they tap, tap, tap on these things, or they might have to adjust some of these areas where the sound escapes and a lot of the tone is created. So that's a furniture, mixture rank. Over here, the big one we have is, let's see if I looked at this before. It's a string rank, so this is about 3 feet, 2 feet tall or so, and here's what it sounds like. And again, if you shorten the sleeve on top, you'll increase or raise the pitch of the pipe. So that's why it takes so long to tune an organ when tuners come in and do things for Christmas or Easter tune-ups. Takes hours, and depending on the size of the organ, it could take all day. We have, I think, probably at this point now around 60, 62 ranks of pipes on this organ. And while I'll talk about that in just a second, let me finish up this part. So here's a wooden flute pipe, and this has this area where most of the sound comes out. Actually, all the sound comes out of here, because you can see in the top here is a little stopper, and that's what creates the sound. Now this happens to be, it says, a flute d'amour, and it sounds a little like this. I think I can get this going. Now this is part of what happened here at this installation at First Church. When you don't have space for longer pipes, you do the physics thing and you stop it. You put something in the end to make it sound an octave lower. Because if I take the stopper out, you'll hear what it sounds like without the stopper. So it's an octave higher than what it was. You put the stopper back in, and it's going to make it an octave lower because the sound column is not going as far as it could. So part of the issue here is over on this side, on the left side as you're facing the altar. The roof line is like this, as you can see behind me. And it doesn't allow for full-length pipes. If we wanted to have 16-foot pipes in the pedal, there's no space back there. There is one rank that was manipulated and worked into that space that is actually a full-length 16-foot, but most of the pipes back there are not 16 feet long, and that's where the electronic 32 foots came into play here, because we needed some more oomph in the bottom, some more support for the sound that is out there for congregational singing, and so the full length 16-foot pipes were not able to fit back there because of the length. And so they were either stopped and made them 8 foot long and put the stopper in there, and then that made it sound like 16 feet. So there's a 16-foot that's in the pedal. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but that's a stopped pipe. And if I were to go back and take all the stoppers out of there, it would sound like this. It would be an octave higher. Now let's take a step back and talk about what ranks or stops mean. I looked up on Google, and to get the official definition is that stops are called stops on an organ because in what they call mechanical action organs, where the pipes, the valves for the pipes and the keys are directly connected by a series of mechanisms, when a sound is set or pulled on, and the air is ready to go, and then you depress a key, it's on. When you move the stop off and you don't want that sound, you turn it off or cause it not to play, and it's what they called stopped. So it's stopping from playing. So that's where that word came from. What a rank means is that for every key on the organ and every rank, every stop of sound, there is one pipe at least for a sound. So, for instance, here is the diapason, the typical organ sound, and the lowest note on this keyboard is C, and therefore that pipe is 8 feet long because it's, let me see if I can show you this. You can see the numbers that are on the stops, all these white tabs, indicate how long these pipes are and the sounds that they would make at that level on the organ. So here is an 8-foot diapason sound on the lowest note. So that pipe over here to my left is 8 feet long. And if you go up an octave to the next C, what would that be? How long would it be? 4 foot, exactly. So you can see it's an octave higher, it sounds a little higher. Another octave higher, etc. So for every note on that diapason rank, there is one pipe for every note. Typical organ manual spans are 61 notes. So for the diapason, this 8-foot diapason, there are 61 pipes for that one particular sound. Now, if I were to change it to another sound, there's another type of diapason here called an English diapason. It's a little bit more forceful, a little bit more, I don't want to use it in a negative term, a little more brash. Okay, so here's the original diapason. Here's the English diapason. So that's that, and how ranks go. You might have seen, as I scanned the camera, you might have seen a couple of things with Roman numerals on it. And this one has Furniture 4 or the Scharf 3, and that means there are actually 4 ranks, 4 pipes playing at the same time for this one note. So here's the bottom C for this 4-rank Furniture. So there are 4 different kinds of sounds in a different pitch that are comprising that mixture sound, and that's what those Roman numerals indicate, are mixture sounds, and because they are a mixture of different pitches. So when you add all those things together, and if you see, as I scanned before, you saw 4s and 2s, and literally that just keeps adding things on top, an octave higher, or 2 octaves higher, or etc., than the original pitch. So here's the diapason at 8-foot level. I'm going to add a principal 4-foot, which is the same organ sound, which will sound an octave higher on that same note. And I'm going to add the 2-foot 15th, which will sound on that same note 2 octaves higher. So there you have one note being played, 3 different sounds, octaves apart. Again, I'll do it in slow motion. 4-foot, 2-foot. So that helps give brightness to the sounds that I'm playing on Sunday morning or in concert. and helping to keep the congregation to hear all those sounds when all of the different sounds of the organ are being combined together. And adding flutes to that helps bring in a little bit more warmth and a little bit more richness and a little more foundation. And here's the English diapason. So it starts to give a little more heft, a little more support to things. Now, you may have seen all the other black tabs that were on the organ. Those are what they call couplers. And all they do is take one sound from one manual or keyboard and move them to another keyboard or combine them together. So if I wanted to have sounds from the main part of the organ, and then I wanted to add sounds from the positive, which is on the right side on the wall, and add that to the grate, the middle manual, where everything is unenclosed. We talked about that last week, enclosed versus unenclosed. So I'm taking sounds from the right side of the chancel and the left side and combining them together. And the sounds on the left side and the right side are similar. Here's 8-foot flute, adding the 4-foot flute, which gives an octave higher. Here's a 4-foot principal sound, diapason. And here's the 2-foot octave above that. Take that off there and see if you can hear the difference between the one side and the other. Might not pick up as well on this microphone, but you can hear that one side is coming from the right side and the other side is coming from the left side. Now if I want to take a coupler and put them together, they sound stereo coming from both sides. Now what we also have on this organ, and this was another question that was asked, what are those pipes in the back of the church? What do they do? Well, as one viewer said, I didn't realize how long your sanctuary was. And that's exactly why, because taking those pipes and for those folks sitting in the back of the church singing a hymn, the lag time from what you hear up here going to the back of the church, there's a delay. So that really just helps keep the singing and the congregation together with the front part of the folks, and keeps them all together and keeps the sound, again, surround sound, stereophonic sound, keep them all together. So here's what the antiphonal, the stuff in the back of the church, sounds like. And I added the mixture to that and adds a little more sparkle and brilliance to it. And if I were to play all of it together, you probably wouldn't notice it because of where I'm sitting and where the microphone is, but that's just helping keep the back folks together when we do hymn singing. So that's that. The other thing was, let me take you and move you around here a little bit, was this little thing over here. Now this is the controller that does a lot of the things that in the first phase the console was added to, and this is called the combination action. Excuse me. And this controls all these white buttons underneath the keyboards. And this organ now has a number of memory levels. I apologize for maybe the camera not angling correctly, but I can't see what I'm focusing at. If I take one of these buttons and move it over here, you can see that the cursor now has moved from home down to the second line, Mem 1. And that means we are on memory level 1. And if I set sounds that I want to move, I can put it on these white buttons, and it puts all the different combinations together. And if I'm playing a piece and I need to change from something soft and I need immediately to get a lot of sound coming in, I can do that with the press of that button. Back to me. So that's the basic gist of what this organ does and how I choose to add sounds to create different things in pieces or hymns. It's just really, it's acquired knowledge, and it's the things that you read in music. You need this sound and this sound and this sound for a composer's intent for that piece of music, or what you want to do with hymns. So typically, I'll have one piston, the little white buttons, that is for hymn playing for introductions. And then I'll punch another one to get a little bit louder. And it just depends on what the text of the hymns are. I adjust the sounds that I create to reflect what it is we're singing about, or what the anthem is being sung, what that's being talked about in that hymn or that anthem. So it's a lot of, and when you go to different organs, everything is slightly different. It's got the same basic, to use the organ term, basic principles, but types of sounds and labels of stops and sounds vary from instrument to instrument, because depending on whether a builder wanted to make it in a French style for French music from the 1900s or the 1800s, or in a German Baroque style that Bach might have had in his day, they might be titled differently on those stops, but the sounds basically are the same. But the organist's job is to go through, figure out what those sounds are, what makes the best sound to impart, hopefully, the composer's intent for that particular piece of music. So I think that's about it for today. I'm looking at my timer now, and that's almost 28 minutes worth. I hope they give you a little bit more insight on what happens in an organ and what an organist does when they combine the sounds together, and how an organ is built. If you want to go and Google basic organ building principles, or what makes an organ sound this way, just use your experimentation and find out what's out there to fill in the blanks, the questions you might have. Obviously, we all have a lot of time now, and we can spend a lot of going down various rabbit holes for all these questions and some of the answers that hopefully we'll get. So I hope that finds you well, and you've learned a little bit more about the sounds here at the First Church Organ. And stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you next Monday.